Okay, so second fake out, because given the fact that there is a United States presidential election this year, I just had to do Treehouse of Horror VII. Treehouse of Horror VII has a few noteworthy fun facts that I'll just get out of the way in the start of the video. It was the last Treehouse of Horror episode to have involvement from Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, it was the last Treehouse of Horror episode to feature Phil Hartman, and it was the first Treehouse of Horror to act as a season premiere episode, something that in the middle seasons would become a commonplace due to Major League Baseball. In previous videos I have mentioned that Treehouse of Horror VII is a contender for second best Treehouse of Horror episode, based on my own opinion as well as the opinions of others. In my 6th review, I had stated that it felt like the new showrunners and the new format for Treehouse of Horror episodes stripped away the special feeling, and that despite trimming the intro down, they did not quite make the best use of the extra time that was provided for segments. It seems they really did get it a little bit better in Treehouse of Horror VII, because Treehouse of Horror VII remedies all of those issues, despite having the same team of writers behind it. I guess they were more locked in for this one than they were for 6. The intro they use is very quick, even quicker than the crusty Headless Horseman one. All that happens is Homer goes to light a pumpkin and his arm catches on fire, he runs around screaming a little bit, and then cue the title card, cue the couch gag, and that was it. They get the intro out of the way to make room for the segments. However, I recently discovered that this opening wasn't the original opening that they were going to use, and it may have just been a last-minute fix. In 6, they used the crusty Headless Horseman intro, which parodied Sleepy Hollow. Initially, 7 was to open with a parody of The Exorcist. An animatic for this intro actually does exist. It was featured on the Season 14 DVD, if I'm not mistaken, and it basically has Reverend Lovejoy performing an exorcism on Lisa as she writhes around. There's no real sound effects or score, it's just black and white, frame-by-frame animation with some voice acting, and then Lisa's head twists around and pukes the title on the screen. It's actually a little bit creepy. It seems like in lieu of graveyard openings, they were gonna go for movie parody openings. Just those little references to horror media that would have ended with a title card on the screen due to some sort of splatter. However, either because of time constraints or because this was considered a little too intense for a primetime audience in 1996, they opted not to go with this, and we would never really get the kind of trend of movie parody openings. They did kind of do some stuff like this in the later Treehouse of Horror episodes, but those episodes suck. It's moments like this that make me wish I was talented at drawing or like art or whatever, because I think somebody with basic skills in tracing and drawing could easily recreate what this was intended to look like. So the opening segment is The Thing and I. Basically, Bart and Lisa notice something weird in the attic, and it's revealed that Bart has an evil twin brother that has been chained up there since birth. They do a good job building up the mystery, with Bart and Lisa noticing more and more that something is running around the vents, and when confronting their parents with questions about it, they're basically told there's nothing in the attic, but don't ever go up there.
Did you guys hear something moving around in the attic last night?
Attic? Oh, that's silly. Seriously, though, don't ever go up there.
See, just like that. Of course, curiosity gets the best of them, and while Homer and Marge are out, Bart and Lisa decide to go up there, and I absolutely love how Bart is holding Maggie while Maggie is holding the lantern. I don't know, it's just cute imagery to me. But of course, the thing in the attic escapes, and we finally get to see the explanation for this, which I explained in the opening of me talking about this segment, that Bart has an evil twin Siamese brother that he was separated from at birth. And in Dr. Hibbert's words,
"But what to do with poor Hugo? Too crazy for Boys Town, too much of a boy for Crazy Town. The child was an outcast."
It's actually nice to see Dr. Hibbert get some extended screen time for once. He's a character they never really used, and I think most of that had to do with the fact that the show and its writers were all white and wouldn't know how to effectively utilize Hibbert without making him into some sort of stereotype. But him being the exposition in this episode is nice. It's kind of like Willie getting the spotlight in Treehouse of Horror V.
You see, when you were born, there was an irregularity.
A monstrous irregularity.
So obviously, considering the Treehouse of Horror episodes are outside of the canon, this is perfectly allowed. Bart had a brother all along, and he was evil and went crazier from being chained up in the attic. And after everyone splits up to go find Hugo, leaving Bart home alone,
Bart, you stay home and tape the hockey game.
We find out that despite running out of the door earlier and leaving Pumpkinhead's claw mark on the door, that Hugo just stayed back and now he can enact his master plan, which is to sew him and Bart back together. I actually love how they drew this whole frame where Hugo steps out of the shadows behind Bart, and I'm shocked that it hasn't become a meme because, yeah, it's a good one. Also, the fucking pigeon rat is awesome. I love the pigeon rat. I also love Hibbard's deception of Hugo, which, unlike the last thing I mentioned, did end up becoming a popular meme within the Simpsons shitposting community. The only thing I really am not a huge fan of concerning this segment is the ending, where it turns out that Bart was the evil twin all along.
That means the evil twin is, and always has been, Bart.
Oh, don't look so shocked.
I mean, it works, it just feels kind of cheap in the end, although Hugo eating the turkey and Lisa stating the obvious always gets a cheap laugh out of me.
Mom, Hugo's eating his napkin. So cute.
So for the most part, this is pretty much an original story. It's based on common horror tropes, but it's not really parodying anything directly. Hugo looks like Quasimodo in design, and his motive to sew him and Bart back together is a reference to fucking Basket Case of all movies, although the crew claims that this is purely coincidental, but it's mostly just an original story using horror tropes and some kind of loose references to other media. The Thing and I is a solid opening segment. It's funny, it has a bit of creep factor, but not too much, and its payoff, well cheap, and somewhat predictable, still kind of works within the context of a Simpsons Halloween episode. It's actually more optimistic than one would expect given the show's history with these cruel twist endings, and it almost kind of plays itself like a big screw the audience joke. I enjoy the look and design of Hugo. He does look like how an evil version of Bart would look, and I enjoy the gags within the segment, and really besides thinking the ending is a little bit lame, I have nothing negative I can say about The Thing and I. But I also don't have too much on the glaringly positive side of things to say about this segment either. It's a good opener, it's a memorable segment with some funny moments in it, but nothing that really breaks new ground. However, because of the pigeon rat and because of Dr. Hibbert getting extended screen time and being fucking hilarious with it, I'll drop it an 8 out of 10.
I worked my butt off to feed you 4 kids, and all you do it... What?
3? We have 3 kids, Homer.
Yeah, 3 nosy kids. And you know what happens to nosy kids who ask too many questions?
No, what happens? Does something happen? Does something happen to nosy kids who ask questions? What happens?
Now, I have made mention of the, quote, middle cooldown segment in previous Treehouse of Horror reviews, and the Genesis tub is the ultimate middle cooldown segment. It was around here that these Treehouse of Horror episodes started to really move away from horror and more into fantasy, sci-fi, and silliness, and the Genesis tub is a very silly segment. It all starts with Lisa's science fair project, which includes her putting a tooth that fell out into a thing of cola to demonstrate how cola can dissolve your teeth.
Science has already proven the dangers of smoking, alcohol, and Chinese food, but I can still ruin soft drinks for everyone.
And then Bart zaps her with static electricity from a balloon, which she then passes to the petri dish, which electrifies it and causes the microbes to evolve into a tiny civilization of people overnight.
My God, I've created life. Lisa, breakfast! We're having waffles! Ooh, waffles!
And they're growing and evolving at an accelerated rate to a point where they become a futuristic society in less than a few hours of the episode's time. So do y'all know what time dilation is and shit? Because if you don't, look it up. I don't feel like explaining it, but this is definitely time dilation. So this is a Lisa story where she's the protagonist and Bart plays the role of antagonist when he tries to destroy the little city. And he basically ends up incurring the wrath of the little people when they attack him in his sleep. Now, I absolutely fucking love this shot they use for when the ships are going to attack Bart, like how they go from Lisa's room through the hall by the dog and into Bart's room. Like, I 100% fucking adore this shot. It's a tracking shot, it's behind the back shot, whatever you want to call it. It looks so good. They really pushed it to the limits when they drew this, and like, I just love how they're like weaving in and out of Bart's covers before firing on him. I love every second of this. This is just so fucking cool looking. But of course, Bart does not share my enthusiasm for this, as he's pretty pissed off that he got lasered in his sleep, and he attempts to go after the little civilization again. again, but Lisa steps in, which then results in Lisa being shrunk down to their size and brought into the tub as the people want to meet their god. And we get a better look at the little civilization, and yes, it's kind of another Futurama-esque aesthetic in The Simpsons. Like earlier when Lisa's looking into the tub, you can see like the tubes and the flying cars and the UFOs and whatnot. When Lisa goes in, they're all dressed in that retro future wear that you would later see in Futurama. There's a bit of witty banter between Lisa and the people she created, some commentary on what would happen if the common man was able to speak to their god.
God? Hi, Bill Watson. I live in the Clark building. I have a question. If you're so good, why do you allow bad things to happen?
Why am I so fat?
Why do bad things happen to good people?
And then we find out that Lisa is trapped in the tub forever. Now, looking at this is a good segment. I don't have a problem with this segment, but it's very short, and I get the feeling that this is one that they kinda sacrificed for time. There are no real deleted scenes in the entire episode besides the intro, but like just looking at how quick this one is, I get the feeling that they were in the writer's room, they were getting ready to move into production, and they were like, okay, we need to trim some shit out, and this ended up being the victim. Pretty fitting for a Lisa segment. It displays some cool animation, it tells the story, and then it just kinda ends with Lisa becoming a lording figure in the lives of the little people she created now that she's been stuck there. Oh, and Bart takes credit for the universe and she embraces her role by ordering her people to bring her shoes.
Shouldn't you people be groveling? And bring me some shoes. Nice ones.
She'll want socks, too. I'll get socks.
For some reason, the guy throwing in the "I'll get socks" line just always fucking murdered me, but upon a rewatch, there's one little part that just made me laugh like a fucking idiot, and I don't know why. When Bart's at the science fair with the little, like, world or whatever, like, Skinner looks over it and he mentions that it's even better than Martin's milk carton ukulele. I don't know why I found this so funny. I think it's just the fact that, for one, Martin's, like, supposed to be the smart kid on the same level as Lisa. You'd think he'd come up with something a little bit better than a fucking home arts and crafts project. It's like Martin was just like, that's like the laziest fucking thing Martin could have possibly done. And also the fact that the milk carton ukulele impressed Skinner so much that he would even compare it to somebody literally creating like a miniature universe of living creatures is just laughable. Like, I snickered like a fucking idiot for like a few minutes when I was rewatching this. It never really sunk in how funny this whole like sequence was. And that's supplemented by having Willie throw out everybody else's science project when they lose. The Genesis tub is a complete throwback to the era of The Simpsons parodying Twilight Zone episodes. It is in essence a parody of the Twilight Zone episode The Little People, but it also could be compared to the 90s Outer Limits reboot episode Sand Kings, and it has references to all sorts of other science fiction tropes as well within it. And going back to that cool shot of the ships, this actually marks the first time that computers were used to assist in animating the show, as a computer was used to create the models during the attack on Bart, which the animators later retraced and repurposed for 2D animation. All in all, the Genesis tub is a very memorable segment, and it's kind of funny, but it's quick, it's short, and it kind of just gets itself out of the way. It's a shame that Lisa gets her first Treehouse of Horror segment since Bart Simpson's Dracula, and it's the shortest one in this special, but it is what it is. If I had to rate the Genesis tub, I'd probably shoot it with a 6.5 out of 10. It's solid, it's above average, it does its job, but it's really nothing special outside of the really cool ship sequence.
Your micro jerks attacked me.
Well, you practically destroyed their whole world.
You can't protect them every second. Sooner or later, you'll let your guard down, and then flush. It's toilet time for Tiny Town.
And now to close this video off, we have the whole reason that I'm using this as an Election Day special, and that is Citizen Kang. I'm gonna go ahead and say this, Citizen Kang is the highlight of this entire special. I have previously mentioned that The Simpsons purposely tried to steer clear of current events in their writing as much as possible with the intention of not aging their episodes for future viewers. I have also mentioned that Homer Cubed aged the episode because just a few years later, computer animation hit a whole new level that made that segment look like dog shit. Citizen Kang is an original story based on the 1996 presidential election between Bob Dole and then President Bill Clinton, which immediately ages it because we've had like 4 presidents since Clinton and are about to hit president number 5. However, it doesn't age itself too badly because of how heavily satired Bill Clinton was in the day by like every comedy show. I think younger viewers are probably more familiar with Hillary Clinton, but Bill Clinton has been parodied across comedy so much, and with syndication, I think they might at least understand the comedic interpretation of Bill Clinton. Clinton, which is present in this episode. I think Clinton's kind of footprint in pop culture keeps it from aging itself a little too much. But either way, to do an episode or even a segment based entirely on an election is a direct violation of the rule of the show not aging itself, but it works out in the end. And even if some of the figures used may be lost on younger viewers, the tones and the satire is still relevant to this day.
It makes no difference which one of us you vote for. Either way, your planet is doomed. Doomed!
And Citizen Kang also breaks the curse of it seemingly appearing that the writers had to fight to get Kang and Kodos in every Halloween special, as this is the first Kang and Kodos-centric segment since the Monkey's Paw back in Treehouse of Horror 2. We open with Homer outside fishing at night, and I love just how angry he is because he isn't catching anything.
The old fishing hole. So peaceful and relaxing. Doesn't even matter if I catch a single fish. Come on, you stupid fish! Take the bait! Don't make me come down there!
And then he's abducted by Kang and Kodos, who wish to, you guessed it, take over the world.
Of course!
For some reason, I thought this line by Homer when he's begging for mercy was always really funny, but it does seem a little bit out of character for Homer. It's funny, but it seems more like something Al Bundy would say.
Don't eat me! I have a wife and kids! Eat them!
I previously mentioned this is the final Treehouse of Horror episode to feature Phil Hartman, and in this he plays Bill Clinton, which is basically him portraying a sort of toned-down version of his SNL Bill Clinton character, who is probably to this day one of, if not the best portrayals of a president on a sketch show.
You got any of that sweet and sour sauce, the ones you dip the McNuggets into?
For your Egg McMuffin?
Or barbecue sauce, whichever.
I would say it's neck and neck tied with Dana Carvey's portrayal of Bush Sr. on the same show. And for the small amount of screen time that Hartman gets as Clinton, he really does bring it.
What's happening? Is it noon already?
See, because these episodes came out when I was young, I didn't really understand what the president really was. Like, I knew they were important, I knew they were in charge of stuff, but I didn't really have any real knowledge of what a president does, nor did I have any real knowledge of Bill Clinton's policies or whatever his politics were. I am Canadian, but you have to remember, most of my family lives in the States and were either born there or are American citizens, so I do have that connection to America to some degree. But because of The Simpsons, I really did think that Bill Clinton was just this bum who sleeps around till noon and whines all the time. And then there's Bob Dole, who, like, to this day, I have no fucking idea who Bob Dole really is, like, besides the fact that he ran when he was really old and didn't win. So Kang and Kodos capture both candidates and then use their body-snatching technology to become them and infiltrate America with the express purpose of, you guessed it, taking over the world.
Of course!
Homer's the only witness to this, and it becomes a classic person who knows the truth but nobody believes him type story.
What are you spraying me with?
Rum! So no one will believe your story.
And don't come back.
And then for the rest of the segment, we get subtle political satire, which according to the 4th Halloween special was dead, so it's good that it came back to life. It really pokes fun at both politicians and their parties, as well as the American voter. With Kodos even lampshading that the average voter can be won over with the bare minimum of effort.
Fooling these Earth voters is easier than expected.
Yes, all they want to hear are bland pleasantries embellished by an occasional saxophone solo or infant kiss.
Also, this fucking imagery of them holding hands. Like, imagine if you, like, saw Kamala Harris and Donald Trump walking around holding hands. So after making a spectacle of himself at a speech, Homer goes looking for the spaceship, and this is a very good screw the audience joke that I find goes underappreciated. And this all leads to what very well may be my absolute favorite Treehouse of Horror moment. After a speech about how partisan politics are destroying America, which, yeah, partisan politics are a major problem as to why nothing ever gets done in a democracy, Clinton and Dole agree to team up in order to stop the space aliens from taking over the world, and then Homer fucking kills them. In Homer's defense, yes, it's an alien spaceship, and that button really does look like it would have done what he thought it was gonna do, which would be to remove the subjects from the tubes that they're trapped in, but in reality, Homer just jettisoned the president and his election opponent into space, and they fucking die instantly. The way they drew this is so perfect, like how Clinton and Dole, like, just get, like, they hit space, and they have just enough time to realize what's happening before they die. There is a common misconception that you explode when you go out into space, when in reality the oxygen is just kind of blown out of your lungs and you just pass out and your body gets irradiated by cosmic radiation and you die. It wouldn't be fun, it's just not as fantastical as exploding. But I absolutely love every second of this animation, how they exit the tubes, how they panic, and then their naked bodies just kind of drift off into the vacuum of space. And the funny thing is, they're not gonna decompose. I don't think you decompose in space. So, like, imagine in thousands of years, some alien is just gonna find the naked, dead body of Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Now it's time to wrap the story up. Homer crashes the UFO into the White House, and that's a reference to something that I can't think of the name of right now, and reveals the truth, but now the people of America are stuck voting for two people who want to enslave them. And I've always found the line about the third-party candidate to be rather hilarious.
Well, I believe I'll vote for a third-party candidate.
Go ahead. Throw your vote away.
Which, yeah, why don't Americans ever embrace the possibility of a third-party candidate? I guess y'all are just hardwired to pick one or the other, huh? And in the end, Earth is enslaved, and that's how the story ends.
I don't understand why we have to build a ray gun to aim at a planet I never even heard of.
Don't blame me. I voted for Kodos.
Go!
Citizen Kang could quite possibly be one of the greatest Treehouse of Horror segments of all time, even if it does break the rules of the show, even if later generations won't really know who Bill Clinton and Bob Dole are, and even if it does kind of end abruptly. It's just so full of good political satire, and I have made mention in the past that I don't care for political satire, but when done right, it's just fine. Aside from the political satire, Citizen Kang also has some homages to like 50s B sci-fi movies, like that shot where Kang and Kodos are transforming into the president and Bob Dole is like straight out of a B sci-fi movie, like the way they frame it and everything. I fucking love that shit. This segment kind of hits every note that it's trying to hit, and it never really misses. If I had to rate Citizen Kang, I think I could give it a 10 out of 10. It's the honest to god highlight of this special. It's the second best ever Kang and Kodos segment, which give me a year or two and we'll get to the best one, and it's just chock full of memorable, hilarious moments that are still quotable to this day.
What the hell is this? Some kind of tube? Hey. Well, thanks for taking care of Dole for me. Hey!
Treehouse of Horror 7 as a whole is probably one of the better post-Treehouse of Horror 5 Halloween specials. Like, sure, they didn't really go for horror yet again, but what it lacks in horror imagery, it makes up for in its hilarity. It seems like it has more of a science fiction vibe, which makes sense because, like, The Outer Limits was getting big, The X-Files was getting big, and those are all, like, sci-fi slash horror kind of shows. However, for what the stories lack in horror, they more than make up for with the Gracie Films logo this year. Typically, in your Simpsons Halloween special, the Gracie Films logo has the woman screaming instead of doing the shush, and then it plays like an organ rendition of the Gracie Films jingle. For some reason, in this special only, they decided to use this really brutal sounding scream. They never use it again, but like I was like, what are they getting on here? Like that shit's fucked up. It's so out of left field because like you're used to the one that they typically use, but this one, I don't know, I guess they just got a new voice actors in there to do like the most fucked up brutal scream they could think of. But besides that, there are so many good visual gags and funny lines in it that you could maybe forgive it for abandoning the horror aspect for a second time. If I had to rate Treehouse of Horror 7 on a scale of 1 to 10, I would be perfectly happy giving the episode a 9 out of 10. It's near perfect, and it earns its place in any argument, placing it in the top 3 Halloween specials of all time. So with that, now Halloween is officially over. I'm done doing horror for a little bit. Now I can get to work on some of the Simpsons poll winners and some other shit. If you enjoyed this video, drop me a like, a comment, a subscribe, hit the bell, and I don't know, I got almost 100 videos on here. Why don't you go through my videos, maybe you'll find some more content that you like. See you later.
Am I? Well, perhaps we're all a little crazy. I know I am.